In this unit, we will examine the past, present, and future of the criminal justice system in Texas. We will introduce current statistics comparing Texas's criminal justice system to the United States as a whole. We will discuss how the criminal justice system works and sometimes doesn't work in Texas. We will use specific examples and cases to understand the strengths and weaknesses of the Texas criminal justice system. We will examine ideas for criminal justice reform as we enter a new legislative session. As of 2018, around 246,000 people are presently incarcerated in various facilities around Texas. This includes 166,000 in state prisons, 56,000 in local jails, 20,000 in federal prisons, and approximately 4,400 youth in the custody of the Texas Juvenile Justice Department. When compared to the total population of incarcerated persons in the United States, Texas accounts for approximately 12% of all persons incarcerated in the country. If we expand our study to include those on probation, parole, or supervision, we can see that the overall population of those in the Texas criminal justice system rises dramatically to 735,000, or approximately 2.45% of the entire population of the state of Texas. If we include those involved in pretrial intervention, parole, and supervision, as well as those incarcerated in a jail or prison setting, Texas tops the nation and the world with 891 per 100,000 population, surpassing the national rate of 698 per 100,000, making Texas the largest jailer in the world. In the United States, incarceration extends beyond prisons and local jails to include other systems of confinement. The United States and state incarceration rates in this graph include people held by those other parts of the justice system, so they may be slightly higher than the commonly reported incarceration rates that only include prisons and jails. While Texas prison and jail incarceration rates have held flat or fallen slightly since the mid-2000s, this is only because overall crime rates have fallen nationally. This chart shows the overall trend of property and total crimes as indexed by the United States Department of Justice as falling since the mid to late 2000s. But a closer look at violent crime rates in Texas shows a sharp upward trend between 2013 and 2017. The data at right shows rates of murder, violent crime, and overall crime in 5 of Texas's largest cities from 2014 to 2015. The city with the sharpest decline in overall crime was Austin, Texas, with Houston accounting for a sharp increase in the murder rate and a slight increase in violent crime overall. And San Antonio shows a 15% increase in violent crime. But throughout the state, the overall crime rate was down, and this trend has continued into 2018 for major urban areas in Texas. One factor which must be taken into account is the trend towards pretrial interventions, which impact conviction rates by taking low-level, nonviolent criminals out of the prison system into short jail terms accompanied by long-term supervision and sentence diversion, which means that if the individual completes his or her supervision period without committing a further criminal offense, his or her record is expunged and no record of the conviction will exist. The chart at right shows another sad trend in Texas criminal justice policy. That is, the overwhelmingly high rates of incarceration for black defendants versus white and even Hispanic defendants. There are many who point to this trend as evidence of racial-based discrimination in the Texas criminal justice system. Looking even deeper, we can see that whites, who are 45% of the Texas population, represent approximately 33% of the prison and jail population, while blacks, who are 12% of the Texas population, are drastically overrepresented with an incarceration rate of 32%. There are four key issues that were considered by the 2017 legislature. A January 2017 article in the Texas Tribune listed four major areas of policy concern for Texas legislators with regard to criminal justice. These are police protection and safety, accountability and transparency, reforms in response to the Sandra Bland case, and raising the age of juvenile justice reforms. Keeping police officers safe while ensuring civil rights of citizens as they interact with police officers in Texas is key. Better training for officers and newly required training for high school students in the 9th grade at explaining rights and responsibilities, their do's and don'ts when interacting with police officers, what came about in 2017. Proposals would include explaining to the students that if they have contact with law enforcement officers, what the law enforcement officer is expecting from them, as well as what they should expect from the officer. Lawmakers and advocates are pushing for better oversight of prisons and enforcement of the state's mandate that law enforcement agencies report data on officer-involved shootings. The case of Sandra Bland, who was arrested on a traffic stop and later committed suicide while she was incarcerated, was very important. Ms. Bland suffered from mental health issues and told officers this at the time of arrest and during incarceration. No one took her issues seriously or even monitored her while she was in jail. Protection of inmates in jails and prisons, while also taking into account concerns with regard to prison and jail safety, is critical. The top issue for juvenile justice advocates in 2017 session was pushing to raise the age of criminal responsibility from 17 to 18. State law has considered 17-year-olds adults for criminal purposes for decades, but critics say that practices could do more harm than good to children who they say have no business being locked up with adult offenders instead of being treated with 16-year-olds and younger people in the juvenile justice system. Reform to juvenile justice systems was a high priority during the last session. Jails and prisons that fail to segregate those younger than 18 from sight or sound of older inmates put Texas at odds with federal laws and regulations. This video has introduced only a few of the important topics that this unit will discuss in further detail. Criminal justice in a tough-on-crime state like Texas is a complex and often difficult topic to take on. We will be skimming on the surface of specific policy issues and concerns that are part of the Texas criminal justice system.